Okay, so it's now white's move. And my goal now is to try to get my queen into an attacking mode here, set up a mating net, and I want to try to either get her on g4 or h5, but I can't right now because the bishop and knight are preventing that by threatening those squares or controlling those squares. So my first objective is to get his knight off of f3, and I do that by this move. Bishop to h4, threatening his knight, which is hanging right now, or unprotected, and he's going to have to either defend that knight or move it. Now if he moves it, that's going to accomplish what I want. Even if he defends it, I can still capture it, and it's going to prevent the knight from protecting the h5 square, which will eventually allow me to bring my queen up. And also, yeah, I can't obviously move my queen on this diagonal because of this knight. However, my goal was going to be, or my objective was going to be, to sacrifice that knight on one of these pawns, the F or the D pawn, and that's going to allow my queen then to access that file, and I'll be that much closer to mating black. So that's what I was going to do there. However, I wasn't really paying close attention, or at least didn't calculate that he could simply move to g4 with this knight, and I can't take, I won't be able to take his knight because it's defended by his bishop. So even if I sacrifice my knight, his knight is going to stand strong there, at least temporarily. So I have to definitely make a clever move here. So I go ahead and do this. Bishop to g3. Now that looks like a really bad move because I'm just offering it up to this pawn. But there's a reason I'm doing that. Number one, I wasn't planning on using my bishop in my mating net, so I don't even need it. So if you don't need a piece, you can sacrifice it with impunity. So essentially that's what I'm doing, but there's also a strategic reason that I'm doing that as well. Black obviously takes it with this pawn, and now that gives me the opportunity to move my knight from e2. I capture the pawn back, which I really didn't care to capture it, but I go ahead and capture it, and now my queen is that much closer to accessing this diagonal. She is still blocked by this knight, which is fortified by the bishop, so I'll have to do another clever move here to try to move that knight once again. Go ahead and, well, yeah, it was black's turn, so black responds here with just a very bad move. This was basically costing the game. Takes this pawn on a3. It's a computer, so it's material oriented. It saw that it could take it. Even if I take back with my rook, I'll capture my rook, and I'm still down a pawn. So that looked like a good move for black. However, I've completely abandoned the queen side. He can do whatever he wants here. Every move he makes on the queen side is a wasted move, and he's digging his hole that much deeper because it doesn't matter. And he's not really creating any threats there. He's many moves away from having a legitimate threat on my king on this side of the board, so that was just a bad move. Now I move my knight here to f5. Now the reason I did this is because now his knight is hanging to my queen, and he can take my knight with his bishop, and I'll take it back with my pawn, but then his knight is still hanging, and he'll still have to move it and still potentially give me access on this diagonal. So that's a pretty good move for me, and I wasn't actually intending on using my knight in my mating net, so it doesn't matter if he takes it, because I'm at this point planning to use my rook and my queen. His king being vulnerable in these two open files, or half open files, a queen and a rook is more than enough. But black makes what looks like a good move, knight to e3. Now he's threatening my queen and my knight, so it sort of looks like a fork. Obviously, it's really a two-pronged attack. I could capture his knight with my knight, which would, all things being equal, be a pretty good move in and of itself. So that's definitely an option. Or I can move my queen But if I move my queen and leave this g2 square undefended, black's going to go ahead and capture it, and he's going to put my king in check. I'll have to move my king. Any square my king goes to will then be exposed to a check threat on black's next move. And if black starts checking me, then it's all over with, because he's got queens, bishops, knights everywhere around me. So I have to be very careful here. So I basically do the only move that I can do to win this thing, which is a rook sacrifice. I've already sacrificed my bishop. Why not try to sacrifice the rook? Black failed to take my knight here on f5, so I can now use that to facilitate my mate instead of the rook. Now black, it's forced mate now, because black now has to take my rook. He cannot move anywhere. He can't move into the h file, and he can't move here to g7 because my knight's threatening it. So he has to take my rook. Now I have access to this diagonal, so it's all over with. Bring my queen out, which is what I intended to do all along. Check on black. He can only move over here to g8. Check him again here on g5. Unfortunately, black just doesn't have any pieces threatening those squares. Those are the only squares I needed access to. And now black is lost. He can only move to h7 and mate. So definitely kind of a wild ending to that game. It looked like I was really in bad shape there. With you could see black totally dominating the center of the board. He's up in material wise. He's up a bishop, a rook, and 2 pawns. So he's up an incredible amount of material. But it's not about who has more pieces. It's about who mates the opponent's king. So with a couple of well-timed sacrifices, I was able to clear pieces out of the way, get black out of position, and set up a sweet little mating net there. So definitely pretty proud of this game, and it's a lot of valuable strategies employed there. So I hope you enjoyed it and learned from it, and thanks for watching.